Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most powerful tools in all of literature, the metaphor. But here's the thing, it's so much more than just a fancy literary device. It actually shapes the way we see and understand the entire world around us. All right, let's just dive right in with a classic from Shakespeare. When Romeo says this, is he just saying Juliet is kind of bright or warm? No way. He's making a statement that is so much bigger. He's saying she is the sun, the center of his universe, the one thing that gives him light and life. So, what is it that makes this line hit so hard? It's not just pretty language, right? It's actually a fundamental tool of how we communicate, and we're about to explore exactly how it works, taking a journey from ancient poetry right into the wiring of our own brains. To get started, let's take a look at the traditional way people thought about metaphors, an idea that goes back thousands of years to ancient Greece. So what makes a metaphor a metaphor? Well, it's this incredibly bold move. It's an assertion that two totally different things are, in fact, the exact same thing. It doesn't just compare them, it literally equates them. And that directness, that's where its real power comes from. And this is where we see a really key difference. A metaphor is not the same as its close cousin, the simile. See, a simile plays it a little safer. It says something is like something else, creating a comparison. But a metaphor? It just closes that gap and flat out declares that one thing is the other. For centuries, and I mean centuries, going all the way back to thinkers like Aristotle, metaphors were mostly seen as just literary decoration. You know, they were a nice way to make your language sound more beautiful and expressive, a tool for poetry, a little ornamental flourish, but not really a fundamental part of how we actually think. And this is where things get really interesting. This is where our whole understanding takes this massive turn, moving away from just literature and into the science of the mind itself. It raises this question, what if a metaphor isn't just something we use, but it's something we use to think? This leads us to a much, much bigger idea, a cognitive revolution that completely reshaped our understanding of language. And honestly, this is the core aha moment of our journey today. So back in 1980, two linguists, George Lakoff and Mark Johnson, came along and proposed that a metaphor isn't just a figure of speech. They said it's a fundamental part of human thought. They called this a conceptual metaphor, and it completely changed the game. So how does it work? Well, the theory is you take an abstract concept, something tricky to grasp. That's called the target domain, like an argument. Then you map it onto something more concrete that you already understand, the source domain, like war. You basically borrow the language of the concrete thing to make sense of the abstract one. And here's the crucial part. When we talk about an argument using the language of war, we aren't just being poetic. Think about it. We're actually structuring our entire understanding of a disagreement as a battle, one with winners, losers, attacks, and defenses. And this insight is pretty profound. It shows that these conceptual metaphors are unconsciously shaping our perceptions and even our actions every single day. We don't just talk about winning an argument, we actually behave as if we're in a battle. Okay, so now that we get this deeper cognitive power, let's circle back to literature and see how the true masters use it. They don't just use it for a single line, they use it to build entire worlds of meaning. This brings us to the extended metaphor, which is also known as a conceit. Now, this is not your quick one-off comparison, no. This is a central idea that a writer develops and explores and keeps coming back to, finding new connections all the way through the work. Just take a look at this from T.S. Eliot. He doesn't just say the fog is like a cat. He fully commits to the idea. He shows the fog rubbing its back, licking its tongue, curling up to sleep. By doing this, he creates this vivid, living, and honestly kind of sinister atmosphere that just hangs over the entire poem. And so many of the greats use this technique. John Donne famously compared two lovers to the two legs of a drafting compass. Shakespeare compared his beloved to an entire summer's day in incredible detail. And of course, George Orwell used an entire farm as a chilling, powerful metaphor for a totalitarian society. But this incredible tool isn't just limited to words on a page. It has found a whole new canvas to play on in modern visual storytelling. That's right. In graphic novels, the images themselves can become these powerful, extended metaphors that drive the entire story and all of its complicated themes. And there's really no better example of this than Art Spiegelman's Pulitzer Prize-winning Mouse. To tell the story of the Holocaust, he uses this really stark animal metaphor. Jewish people are drawn as mice, and the Nazis are drawn as cats. It's a visual conceit that runs through the whole book. And this visual choice is so much more than just symbolism. By casting victims as prey and their perpetrators as predators, it forces you, the reader, to confront these huge, complex ideas about persecution, about dehumanization, and about the sheer horror of history in this really visceral, unforgettable way. So, we've gone on quite a journey. We started with a simple literary device, we dove into a fundamental cognitive tool, and we ended up with a powerful visual narrative strategy. So why does any of this matter? What's the big takeaway? Well, metaphors are absolutely the artist's brushstrokes on the canvas of literature, painting these pictures that can captivate and move us. But they're also something bigger. They are the very framework of our thoughts, shaping how we see everything from love and time to argument and society. And the final takeaway is really this. Understanding metaphors gives us a whole new lens to see not just art, but to see ourselves. It invites us to ask, what comparisons are shaping my life? Thanks so much for joining this explainer.